He didn't look at women twice, so when Jack Wick said she's mine, everyone knew something was wrong before I did. The rooftop air tasted like rain and expensive whiskey, Manhattan glowing beneath us like a promise I didn't belong in, and I kept my head down, balancing a tray that wasn't mine, wearing heels I couldn't afford, pretending I fit into a world built on money and quiet power, but I felt it before I saw him. The shift, the silence, conversations fading mid-sentence like someone had pressed pause on the entire night. And when I finally looked up, Jack Wick was standing at the entrance, 6 feet of stillness wrapped in a tailored black suit. Not loud, not flashy, just there. And somehow that was worse, because men moved out of his way without being asked, because security straightened like they'd been caught doing something wrong, because even the city lights behind him felt dimmer, and I told myself not to stare, not to get involved, not to exist in his orbit. But then a hand closed around my wrist, casual, careless, and I flinched before I could stop myself, turning to see one of the guests, the kind of man who smiled like everything in the room was already his grip light but possessive as his eyes dragged over me, and he chuckled. She's hot. Like I wasn't standing right there, like I was something to comment on, something to pass between conversations, and I opened my mouth to pull away, to say something, anything, but I didn't get the chance, because the air shifted again, sharper this time, colder, and I felt it down my spine before I heard his voice low, controlled, final, she's mine. And everything stopped, not just the music, not just the conversations, but something inside me, because I didn't know him. I had never seen him before in my life, and yet the way he said it made it sound like a fact, like gravity, like something that had always been true whether I agreed or not. And the man holding me laughed under his breath, testing, pushing, but his hand loosened anyway, just enough for me to pull free, my heart slamming against my ribs as I stepped back, shaking my head. I'm not yours. The words coming out softer than I wanted, weaker than I felt. But Jack Wick didn't react the way I expected, didn't get angry, didn't step closer, didn't try to prove anything. He just looked at me, really looked, like he was searching for something beneath my skin, beneath my voice, beneath the version of me standing in front of him. And for a second that stretched too long. I couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't understand why his eyes felt familiar in a way that made my chest tighten, like a memory I couldn't reach, like a name on the tip of my tongue. And then his gaze dropped, slow, deliberate, to the small silver pendant resting against my collarbone, the one I never took off, the one I barely remembered getting. And I saw it happen, saw the exact moment something cracked in his expression, not weakness, not confusion, but recognition, sharp and sudden and impossible to ignore, like he had just found something he didn't even know he'd lost. And when his eyes lifted back to mine, the entire world felt different. Heavier, like whatever this was, whatever had just started, it wasn't an accident, and somehow, without understanding why, I knew it wasn't over. Take it off. His voice was quieter this time, but somehow it carried more weight than before, cutting through the noise that had slowly returned around us. And for a second, I did not realize he was talking about the pendant until his eyes flicked down again, precise, focused, like that small piece of silver had become the center of his world. And I instinctively stepped back, my fingers closing around it, the metal warm from my skin. No, I said, stronger this time, because something about the way he was looking at it made my chest tighten in a way I could not explain. Like if I let it go, I would lose something more than just a necklace. And Jack Wick did not move, did not reach for me, did not force anything, which somehow made it worse, because it meant he did not need to, because the control was already there. Invisible and absolute, woven into the way people gave us space, into the way his presence filled every inch of the rooftop without effort. Where did you get it? He asked, not a question, not really, more like a demand wrapped in calm. And I shook my head, my pulse too loud in my ears. I have had it for years, I said, which was true and not true at the same time, because I could not remember when it started feeling like part of me, only that it always had been. And his jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, like the answer did not satisfy him, like it only confirmed something he did not want to believe. And for a moment I thought he would push further, but instead he stepped closer, just one step, measured, controlled. And every instinct in my body told me to move, to create distance, to get away from whatever this was. but my feet stayed rooted, like I was caught in something I did not understand. "You should not be here," he said, his voice dropping lower, softer, and that surprised me more than anything else, because it did not sound like a threat. It sounded like a warning, like he was trying to keep me out of something instead of pulling me in, and I let out a small, disbelieving laugh, because none of this made sense. "Then why did you say that?" I asked, my voice shaking despite my effort to steady it. "Why did you say I was yours?" And for the first time since he had walked in, something shifted in his expression, not uncertainty, not weakness, but something closer to conflict, like he was standing between two truths and had not decided which one to follow. And his gaze dropped again to the pendant, lingering there for a second too long before returning to my face, because I recognized something. He said, slow, deliberate, like he was choosing each word carefully, something I have not seen in a very long time. And the way he said it made my stomach twist, because it felt too personal, too specific, like he was talking about me and not just the necklace, like there was a story I had never been told and he already knew the ending. And I shook my head again, taking another step back, creating space this time, because whatever this was, it was pulling me into something deeper than a misunderstanding, deeper than a mistake, and I was not ready for that. "You are wrong," I said, but the words sounded thin even to me, because part of me was not sure anymore. Part of me was caught on the way his eyes had changed when he looked at that pendant, on the way the room had gone silent when he spoke, on the way everything about this moment felt like it had already happened somewhere else, in another time I could not remember, and Jackwick watched me like he could hear every one of those thoughts, like he could see the doubt I was trying to hide. And when he finally spoke again, his voice was quieter than ever, almost lost beneath the distant hum of the city. "If I am wrong," he said, "then why do you look like you remember me too?" And that was the moment my breath caught, because I had been so focused on denying him that I had not noticed the truth sitting right beneath it, the strange pull, the familiarity I could not place, the feeling that this was not the beginning of something new, but the continuation of something unfinished. And I did not have an answer for him, not one that made sense, not one that could explain why my heart was racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear and everything to do with a past I did not remember but somehow could not escape. I should have walked away right then, but my feet refused to cooperate, like the city noise below had faded into something distant and irrelevant, leaving only him and the weight of a question I could not answer. And I hated that. Hated the way my silence seemed to confirm something for Jackwick, because his expression did not soften, did not waver, it sharpened, like a puzzle piece had clicked into place, but he still needed the rest of the picture. "I do not remember you," I said finally, forcing the words out, holding on to them like they could anchor me back to reality, back to a life where I was just a girl working a shift that was not even mine, in a place I did not belong. And for a second I thought that would be enough. That denial would break whatever tension had formed between us. But instead he exhaled slowly, almost inaudible, like he had expected that answer, like it did not change anything. "That does not mean it did not happen," he replied, calm, certain, and that certainty unsettled me more than anything else tonight, because it suggested a truth that existed whether I accepted it or not. And I shook my head again, taking another step back until the cool metal railing pressed lightly against my lower back, grounding me in the physical world. "You are making a mistake," I insisted, even as my fingers tightened around the pendant without thinking, even as a strange, flickering image brushed the edge of my mind. Something small, something distant, a memory I could not quite reach, like trying to recall a dream after waking. And I hated that even more, because it meant there was something there, something real enough to resist being ignored. And Jackwick noticed, of course he noticed, his eyes narrowing just slightly as he watched my hand, watched the way I held onto that necklace like it mattered. "Tell me what you remember," he said, softer now, not commanding, not demanding, but focused, intent, like he was not asking for control this time, but for truth. And I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry, because the answer was nothing, or at least that was what I told myself. Nothing clear, nothing solid, just fragments that slipped away the moment I tried to hold on to them. "It was a gift," I said, the first explanation that came to mind, even though it felt incomplete the second it left my mouth, from someone a long time ago. And his gaze did not leave mine, did not blink, like he was measuring every word, weighing it against something only he could see. Someone important. He pressed, and I hesitated, just for a second, and that second was enough, because the truth was I did not know. Not really. I had always just accepted it, like the necklace had always been there, like it had always belonged to me. And suddenly that felt wrong. Suddenly it felt like a missing piece I had never questioned before. I do not remember. I admitted, quieter this time, and something in his expression shifted again. Not triumph, not satisfaction, but something heavier, something almost like regret. And that made no sense, because we were strangers. We had to be. And yet the way he looked at me felt like the opposite of that, like I was someone he had already lost once and was not willing to lose again. And the thought hit me so suddenly that it made my chest tighten, my breath catching in a way I could not control, because it felt too real, too close to something buried deep inside me. And before I could stop myself, I asked the question that had been building since the moment he said those words. How do you know me? And for the first time, Jackwick did not answer right away, his gaze drifting past me for a fraction of a second, like he was looking at something else entirely, something not on this rooftop, not in this moment, but somewhere far behind it. And when he looked back at me, his voice was lower than before, quieter, but carrying something undeniable beneath it. Because you were not supposed to disappear, he said, and the words settled between us like something fragile and irreversible, because whatever he believed, whatever he remembered, it was not just a coincidence. It was not just recognition. It was something deeper, something that reached into a past I could not see. And for the first time that night, I was not just confused, I was afraid of what I might find if I started remembering too. The words should not have meant anything, but they did, settling into my chest like something heavy and unmovable. And I could not shake the feeling that I had just stepped into the middle of a story that had already been written without me. I did not disappear, I said, but even as I said it, doubt crept in, quiet and persistent, because how could I be sure of something I could not fully remember? How could I argue against a past that felt like it had pieces missing? And Jackwick watched that doubt form, watched it spread, his gaze steady, unrelenting, like he had been waiting for this moment longer than I could understand. You did, he replied, not harsh, not accusing, just certain, and that certainty made my stomach twist, because it left no room for argument, no space for denial, only questions I did not want to ask. Then tell me, I said, the words coming faster now, sharper, because if he was going to pull me into this, I needed something real, something I could hold on to. Tell me what I am supposed to remember. And for a second, something flickered across his face, something that almost looked like hesitation, like he was weighing the cost of answering, like the truth was not something he could just hand over without consequence. And that scared me more than anything else tonight, because it meant whatever this was, it mattered. You were not supposed to be here tonight, he said instead, shifting the conversation, redirecting it in a way that felt deliberate, controlled, and I let out a breath I did not realize I had been holding, frustration mixing with confusion. Neither was I. I shot back, because that part at least was simple, that part made sense. I picked up a shift for someone else, that is all. And his eyes narrowed slightly, like that detail mattered more than it should, like even something that small could not be a coincidence. You do not believe in coincidence, I said before I could stop myself, the realization slipping out, and his expression did not change, but something in the air between us did, confirming what I already knew. No, he answered simply, and that single word carried more weight than anything else he had said, because it meant this, all of this, me being here, him seeing me, the pendant, the recognition, none of it was random to him. It was part of something larger, something I could not see yet, and my grip tightened on the cool railing behind me, grounding myself again, forcing my thoughts to stay clear. Then what do you think this is? I asked, my voice quieter now, more careful, because I was no longer just pushing back. I was trying to understand, and Jackwick stepped closer again, not enough to invade my space, but enough to make it impossible to ignore him, enough to remind me that he was the center of whatever this was. I think, he said slowly, his gaze locking onto mine with an intensity that made it hard to look away, that someone made sure you would not remember. And the words sent a chill through me, because they turned everything I thought I knew into something uncertain, something fragile, and I shook my head instinctively, rejecting it even as it made a strange kind of sense. That is not possible, I said, but my voice lacked conviction, because if there were missing pieces, if there were gaps I had never questioned, then maybe it was. Maybe something had been taken from me without me even realizing it. And the thought made my chest tighten, my breathing uneven, because it meant my life might not be entirely mine, might not be as simple as I had believed. And Jackwick saw it, saw the shift, the fear, the realization beginning to take shape. And for the first time, his voice softened in a way that felt almost protective. "You are safe here," he said, and that should not have meant anything. Not from him, not from a man who commanded a room with silence and control, but somehow it did. Somehow it settled something inside me even as everything else remained uncertain, and that contradiction made no sense, made everything more complicated, because I should have wanted to leave, should have walked away from him and whatever past he was pulling me toward, but instead I stayed, caught between fear and curiosity, between denial and something that felt dangerously close to recognition. And when I finally spoke again, my voice was barely above a whisper. "Then why does it feel like I am not supposed to run?" And Jackwick did not answer right away, his gaze softening just slightly, just enough to make the next words land deeper than anything else he had said. "Because last time," he said quietly, "you did not." The words hit me harder than they should have, settling somewhere deep and quiet where logic could not reach. Because I knew without understanding why that he was telling the truth, or at least a version of it that felt too real to ignore, and I hated that more than anything. Hated the way my certainty was slipping through my fingers like something I had never truly owned. "That does not make sense," I said, but my voice lacked the strength it had before, because part of me was already questioning everything I thought I knew. And Jackwick did not argue, did not push. He just watched me with that same steady intensity, like he was waiting for me to catch up to something he had already accepted. In the silence between us stretched, heavy and full of things neither of us said, until I broke it first, because I needed something solid, something real. "If I stayed before," I said slowly, choosing each word carefully, "then tell me why." And this time he did not look away, did not hesitate. But there was something different in his expression now, something guarded, like the answer mattered more than the question. "Because you trusted me," he said, and the simplicity of it made my breath catch. Because that was the one thing that felt the least believable, the one thing that clashed with everything I saw in front of me, with the power in his posture, the control in his voice, the way the entire room bent around him without question. I would remember that. I insisted, shaking my head, because trusting someone like him was not something that just disappeared, not something that could be forgotten without leaving a mark. And yet as I said it, a faint image flickered at the edge of my mind, too fast to catch, too soft to hold, like a shadow of something I had once known, and I pressed my fingers harder against the pendant, grounding myself, trying to stop the feeling before it grew into something I could not control. But Jackwick saw it. Of course he saw it, his gaze softening for just a fraction of a second before returning to that focused calm. "You remember more than you think," he said quietly, and I wanted to deny it, wanted to push back again, but the words felt weaker now, less certain, because something inside me was shifting, something I could not name, and I did not like it, did not like the way it made me feel like I was standing on the edge of something unknown. "Then help me," I said before I could stop myself, the words slipping out with more urgency than I intended, because if there was a truth here, if there was something missing, I needed to understand it, needed to make sense of the way my chest tightened every time he looked at me like that. And for a moment, Jackwick did not move, did not speak, like he was considering something deeper than the question itself. And when he finally did step closer, it was slow, deliberate, giving me time to pull away if I wanted to, but I did not. I stayed, caught between fear and something else I could not quite define, and his voice, when it came, was softer than before, almost careful. "Memories do not come back because you force them," he said. "They come back when you feel safe enough to remember." And the way he said safe made something inside me tighten, because I was not sure if I believed him, not sure if I should, but at the same time, I could not ignore the strange calm that had settled beneath the confusion. The way part of me felt like I had been here before, like this conversation was not new, just unfinished, and I let out a slow breath, my shoulders relaxing just slightly despite everything. "And you think I am safe with you?" I asked, not challenging this time, just trying to understand, and Jackwick held my gaze without hesitation, without doubt, like this was the one thing he was absolutely certain about. "I know you are," he replied, and something in his voice made it impossible to dismiss, impossible to brush aside, because it was not just confidence, it was something deeper, something earned, and that realization settled over me slowly, quietly, like the first piece of a larger truth falling into place. And before I could stop myself, before I could question it again, I asked the one thing that had been building beneath everything else. The question that felt more dangerous than all the others combined. What happened the last time I stayed? And this time, Jackwick did not answer immediately, his gaze shifting slightly, not away from me, but inward, like he was looking at something only he could see. And when he finally spoke, his voice carried something I had not heard before, something heavier than control, heavier than certainty, something that sounded dangerously close to regret. "You changed everything," he said quietly, and the way he said it made my heart skip, because it did not sound like a memory he had let go of, it sounded like one he had been waiting to get back. The words stayed with me longer than they should have, echoing in the quiet space between my thoughts like something unfinished, something waiting to be understood, and I could not shake the way Jackwick had said them, not with pride, not with control, but with something that felt dangerously close to loss. And that changed everything, because it meant whatever had happened between us before, it had not been simple, it had not been one-sided, it had mattered, changed everything. How? I asked, my voice quieter now, less defensive, because I was no longer just resisting him. I was trying to understand him, and that realization unsettled me more than anything else tonight. And Jackwick exhaled slowly, like the question carried more weight than I realized, like the answer was not something he could give without consequence. And for the first time since I had met him, he looked almost human, not less powerful, not less controlled, but more real, like the distance between us had narrowed just enough to reveal something beneath the surface. "You made me see things differently," he said finally, his voice low, steady, but there was something underneath it, something I could not quite name, and I frowned slightly, because that answer felt incomplete, like it was only part of the truth. "That is not enough," I said, shaking my head, because if I had changed everything, then it had to be more than that. It had to be something real, something specific, something I could hold on to. And his gaze met mine again, sharp and focused, but softer than before, like he was deciding whether I was ready to hear the rest. "You made me hesitate," he added, and that word hit differently, because hesitation did not fit the man standing in front of me, not the way people moved around him, not the way his presence commanded the room without effort, and I could see it in his eyes, the memory of that moment, the shift it had caused, and something inside me reacted to it, something quiet but undeniable, like a distant echo of the same hesitation, and I swallowed hard, my grip tightening around the pendant again, because the feeling was getting stronger now, harder to ignore. "That still does not explain why I do not remember," I said, because that was the part that mattered, the part that made everything else feel unstable, and Jackwick nodded slightly like he had expected that, like he had been waiting for me to ask the right question. And when he spoke again, his voice dropped just enough to make the words feel more personal, more dangerous, "Because remembering me would have put you in danger," he said, and the simplicity of it made my breath catch, because it made sense in a way nothing else had. It connected the missing pieces into something that felt real, something that felt possible, and I stared at him for a second, trying to process it, trying to understand what that meant for me, for my life, for everything I thought I knew. "So someone took my memories," I said slowly, testing the idea, and he did not deny it, did not correct me, which somehow made it feel more real, more solid, and a strange mix of emotions rose inside me. Confusion, fear, frustration, but beneath all of it, something else, something quieter, something that felt like relief. Because if my memories were missing for a reason, then maybe I had not imagined this connection. Maybe it was not just in my head, and that thought changed the way I looked at him. Just slightly, just enough for him to notice. Because of course he noticed, his gaze sharpening as he studied my face, reading every shift, every hesitation, every unspoken question, and for a moment, neither of us spoke, the city humming softly below us, the night stretching out around us like it was waiting for something to happen. And I realized then that I was no longer trying to leave, no longer looking for an exit or an excuse. I was standing there, choosing to stay, even if I did not fully understand why. And that realization settled into me slowly, quietly, like something inevitable. And when I finally spoke again, my voice was steadier than before, more certain despite everything I still did not know. If I stayed before, I said, meeting his gaze without looking away, then maybe there was a reason for that too. And Jackwick did not smile, did not react the way anyone else might have, but something in his expression shifted, something subtle but unmistakable, like a tension he had been holding had eased just slightly. And when he answered, his voice carried a quiet certainty that made my chest tighten again, not with fear this time, but with something else entirely, something that felt dangerously close to trust. There was, he said, and the way he said it made it clear that whatever that reason was, it had not changed, even if I had forgotten it. The way he said it should have pushed me away, should have reminded me that this was not my world, that whatever reason existed between us belonged to a version of me I could not even remember, but instead it pulled me closer, not physically, but in a way that felt harder to control, like something inside me was leaning toward him before I could stop it. And that realization unsettled me more than anything else tonight. Then tell me what it was, I said, my voice steady even as my thoughts were not. Because if there was a reason, if there was something strong enough to survive even without memory, I needed to understand it, needed to know why standing here with him felt less like a mistake and more like something inevitable. And Jackwick held my gaze, his expression unreadable for a moment, like he was deciding how much to give, how much I could handle. And then he shook his head slightly, not dismissive, but certain. It is not something I can just tell you, he said, and frustration flared in my chest at that, sharp and immediate, because every answer he gave seemed to lead to more questions, to more uncertainty, and I exhaled sharply, turning my head for a second, looking out over the city lights below just to break the intensity of his stare, to remind myself that there was still a world outside of this moment. But it did not help, because even with my back partially turned, I could still feel him there, still feel the weight of his attention like something tangible, and I turned back before I could stop myself, drawn in again despite everything. Then how am I supposed to believe you? I asked, quieter now, not accusing, just honest, because belief required something to hold on to, something real, and right now all I had were fragments and feelings I could not explain. And Jackwick stepped closer again, not enough to overwhelm, but enough to close the distance that had grown between us, enough to make the space feel smaller, more focused. You do not have to believe me, he said, his voice low and calm. You just have to pay attention to what you feel. And the simplicity of it caught me off guard, because it shifted the focus away from him, away from the past, and back onto me, onto something I could not ignore. And I frowned slightly, my mind racing as I tried to make sense of that, because what I felt was not clear, not simple. It was a mix of confusion and familiarity, fear, and something that felt dangerously close to comfort. And I hated that combination, hated the way it made me question my own instincts, and yet I could not deny it, could not push it aside the way I wanted to, and my fingers tightened around the pendant again, almost unconsciously. And this time, instead of just feeling the cool metal, something else flickered beneath it, a sensation that did not belong to the present, something softer, warmer, like a memory brushing against the surface of my mind. And I froze, my breath catching as the feeling sharpened just enough to notice, just enough to make my heart race for a completely different reason. And Jackwick saw it immediately, his gaze locking onto mine with a new intensity, not controlling, not demanding, but focused, like he had been waiting for this exact moment. What is it? He asked quietly, and I shook my head at first, instinctively pulling back from it, because the feeling was unfamiliar, unsettling, like something I was not ready to face. But it did not disappear. It lingered, just out of reach, and I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay still, to not run from it this time, because maybe this was what he meant, maybe this was how it started. I do not know, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper, but it feels like something I almost remember, and the words felt strange as soon as I said them. but they were true, more true than anything else I had said tonight. And Jack Wick's expression shifted again, something quiet and steady settling into place, like a confirmation he had been waiting for, and he nodded once, slow and deliberate. "Then do not fight it," he said, and the way he said it made my chest tighten again, not with fear this time, but with something deeper, something that felt like standing on the edge of something important, something that could change everything if I let it. And I took a slow breath, my eyes closing for just a second as I tried to hold on to that feeling, to follow it instead of pushing it away. And when I opened them again, the world felt slightly different, not clearer, not fully understood, but shifted just enough to make me realize that whatever had connected us before, it was still there, waiting beneath the surface, and the thought both terrified and steadied me at the same time, because it meant this was not just his story, it was mine too, even if I had forgotten how it began. For a moment, everything else disappeared, the music, the voices, even the city below, leaving only that fragile thread of something I could almost remember, and I held on to it, focusing on the faint warmth beneath my fingertips where the pendant rested, trying to follow it before it slipped away again. And then it happened, not a full memory, not something clear, but a flash, quick and disorienting. A younger version of me, standing somewhere quieter, somewhere softer, the sound of rain tapping against glass, and a voice, low and steady, telling me something I could not quite hear, but I knew it mattered. I knew it had mattered enough to stay with me even now, buried beneath everything else. And my breath caught as the image faded as quickly as it had come, leaving me standing there with my heart racing for reasons I could not explain. "I saw something," I whispered, more to myself than to him. But Jack Wick heard it anyway. Of course he did, his entire focus narrowing onto me like nothing else existed. "What did you see?" he asked, his voice controlled but carrying a tension that had not been there before, like this mattered to him in a way that went beyond curiosity. And I shook my head slightly, frustrated, because it was already slipping, already fading into something vague and unreachable. "I do not know," I admitted, my voice uneven. "It was just a moment, a feeling, like I was somewhere else." And his gaze softened just slightly, not in weakness, but in recognition, like he understood exactly what I meant, like he had been waiting for this to happen. And that realization made something inside me shift again, something deeper this time, something that felt less like confusion and more like connection. And I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay present, to not lose myself in something I could not fully grasp yet. "You were there," I added quietly, because even though I had not seen his face clearly, I knew, somehow I knew. And the way his expression changed confirmed it, a subtle tightening around his eyes, a stillness that felt heavier than before, like the memory meant something more than he had been willing to say. "You are remembering," he said, not as a question, but as a quiet statement, and I nodded slowly, even though it felt incomplete, even though it was barely anything at all, because it was still more than I had before, more than the emptiness I had been holding on to. And that alone was enough to change everything, enough to make this real in a way it had not been before. And I looked at him differently then, not just as a stranger with answers, but as someone connected to something inside me, something I could no longer deny. "Then tell me the rest," I said, my voice steadier now, more certain, because if I was starting to remember, then I needed to know what I was walking into, what I had already been part of. And Jack Wick did not look away, did not hesitate this time. But there was something heavier in his expression now, something that made my chest tighten before he even spoke. "You came to me," he said slowly, each word deliberate, like he was choosing them carefully. "Not because you had to, but because you wanted to." And that hit differently, because it meant choice. It meant that whatever had happened between us before, it had not been forced, it had not been one-sided. It had been something I had stepped into willingly, and that realization sent another flicker through my mind, stronger this time, clearer, the same rain, the same quiet space, but this time I could feel it, the calm, the strange sense of safety standing near him, the way my voice had not shaken when I spoke, the way I had not been afraid. And I gasped softly as the feeling lingered just a second longer before fading again, leaving me breathless, caught between what I knew and what I was starting to remember. And when I looked back at him, something had changed. not just in him, but in me, because I was no longer standing there trying to deny it. I was standing there trying to understand it. And that shift felt irreversible, like a line I had already crossed. Without realizing it, and Jackwick saw it, saw the moment it happened, his gaze steady and certain as he held mine. And when he spoke again, his voice carried a quiet intensity that made my heart skip, not from fear, but from something else entirely, something I could not name yet, but could no longer ignore. And this time, he said, "You are starting to remember why." The moment he said it, something inside me finally gave way, not all at once, not in some dramatic rush, but slowly, like a door I had kept locked without realizing it was even there. And the feeling that followed was not just recognition, it was understanding, incomplete but undeniable, like I was standing in the middle of a memory that had been waiting for me to return, and I took a slow breath. My fingers still wrapped around the pendant as if it was the only thing keeping me grounded. Then, why do I feel like I already made that choice? I asked, my voice quieter now, steadier in a way it had not been before, because the fear was still there, but it was no longer the only thing guiding me. And Jackwick did not look surprised, did not question it. He simply watched me with that same focused calm, like he had known I would reach this point eventually. "Because you did," he answered, and the certainty in his voice did not feel overwhelming this time. It felt right, in a way I could not explain, and that scared me more than anything else, because it meant I was no longer just reacting to him. I was responding to something inside myself, something that had been there long before tonight. And I looked away for a second, my gaze drifting back to the city, the endless lights stretching out beneath us, each one representing a life, a story, a path that made sense. And I wondered how mine had become something so uncertain, so tangled in a past I could not fully remember. And yet when I turned back to him, I did not feel lost. I felt pulled, like there was a direction here even if I could not see the whole road yet. "You said I changed everything," I continued, my voice more certain now, because if I was going to accept any part of this, I needed to understand what that meant, needed to know what kind of person I had been before all of this was taken from me. And Jackwick held my gaze, his expression unreadable for a moment before something shifted, something quieter, more honest. "You made me choose differently," he said, and those words landed deeper than anything else he had told me, because they spoke of something bigger than control, bigger than power. They spoke of change, real change, and I felt it again, that flicker in my mind, stronger now, clearer, not a full memory, but enough to feel, enough to understand the weight of it, the way I had stood in front of him without fear, the way I had spoken like I believed he could be more than what the world saw. And my breath caught as the feeling settled into something steady, something real, and I realized then that whatever had existed between us before, it had not been simple, it had not been easy, but it had been true, and that truth was still here, still present, even without the memories to support it. And I swallowed hard, my heart racing for reasons that had nothing to do with fear anymore. "And if I remember everything," I said slowly, meeting his eyes again, "what happens then?" And this time, Jackwick did not hesitate, did not look away, his answer immediate and certain in a way that left no room for doubt. "Then you will have to choose again," he said, and the weight of that settled over me instantly, because it meant this was not something he could decide for me, not something he would force. It meant that whatever this was, whatever we had been, it depended on me just as much as it did on him. And that realization changed everything, because it gave me back something I had not even realized I was missing: control, choice. And I stood there for a moment, letting that sink in, letting the fear and the confusion settle into something clearer, something more focused. And when I finally spoke again, my voice was calm, steady in a way it had not been before, because I was no longer just reacting, I was deciding. Even if I did not have all the answers yet, then maybe I already am, I said quietly, and something in his expression shifted, subtle but undeniable, like he understood exactly what I meant. And the space between us felt different then, not smaller, not closer, but clearer, like whatever this was, it was no longer hidden, no longer uncertain. It was just waiting. And as I stood there, the city stretching out beneath us, the night still humming around us, I realized that this was not the end of something. It was the beginning of a choice I had already made once before, And this time, I was finally starting to understand why.